Welcome. So if you've been following along, you know that we are in the series about cultivating higher consciousness by utilizing the chakra system. So the reason the chakra system is what I use is because it makes perfect sense to me, and it allows us to build upon levels and layers of ourselves, both the humanness and the divine, with finite steps to reach that highest level of consciousness. Last year, I retired an internationally accredited healing school. And for 5 years straight, I taught every single day students all over the world the chakra system and helped them to find their power, their center, their truth through this system. And I know it works. And so I'm teaching you this here today because I have been called onto a journey of guiding others into that highest level of consciousness. If you didn't see my post this morning, today I made an incredible announcement to my community and social media that I will be opening a collective group. We are one. It is a Pay What You Can mystery school. So I'm obliterating the separation in the financial system and allowing you to pay what feels right to you. I normally charge pretty high rates for my one-on-one services and my groups, and I felt a deep call to start changing and transforming my business because I know that as I serve others, I serve the whole world and myself, and it's the greatest way I know how to make an impact and become the change I want to see, which you're going to hear more about in this third chakra teaching today. So, doing a quick recap. I'm sorry, you can get more information on that in the comments below, wherever you're watching this video or listening to the podcast. So today we are on the third chakra. We started with the first and second chakra the last few weeks. I post an educational video like this one where I go over not only all of the bullet points and the elements, the basic parts of each chakra or energy system, and then I give you a teaching based on how I interpret it and how I've utilized all of that data that I'm collecting in each energy center to transform my life and build upon this ladder up to higher consciousness. So in the first chakra, to do a recap, we grounded into our own beliefs. We found a deep anchor. We really looked at what was ours, what was other people's. We started to change and transform those core beliefs and anchor into ourselves, into our human belief system, and into that knowing. In the second chakra, we moved up to a state of surrender, to a state of being with all of our sensations, with all of our feelings, really learning how to utilize our feelings and emotions as exactly what they are, tools that guide us further into ourselves and our knowing. It's a place in the second chakra of deep surrender and life-sustaining energy. So if you remember in the first two sessions of this, I taught an analogy of a fire. So the first chakra is the ground, and it's also the base of our fire. The second chakra is the fuel for all that fire, the sustenance, the nurturance, the knowing, right? You maybe even call it the feminine energy, that yummy, nurturing energy. And we get up into the third, and the third is the flame. It's the flame that lights the way forward into everything else. The bottom three chakras are all our human chakras. They're all the chakras that hold our trauma, our beliefs, our distortions, and it's by clearing and purifying these that you'll learn next week. We bridge that gap through love in the fourth chakra to then go into the ethereal chakras. So this is the last of the human chakras, and it's important to really make sure you're going back to the first and second and checking in with yourself as you move forward through each label. So as I have in the past, I'm going to go through some bullet points. I have booklets that I provide to my community on each of the chakras. So I'm reading through one of those booklets today. I'll post a sample of it later if you're wanting to join the community and kind of see what all's involved in what you get. But that's why if it looks like I'm reading, it's because I am. I'm just taking all of the information from this booklet to give you all the bullet points, and then we go into the teaching. So the third chakra has the element of fire. It's the Manapura or lustrous gem. Its purpose is transformation. And I want you to think about flames, fire. What do? They transform, they melt, they dissolve, they can change, flames can change metal into liquid so that we can form and mold it. That's exactly what our third chakra does, with that sustenance, that energy from the second, and with that grounded foundation of the first. Some of the issues that come up around this chakra are energy, activity, autonomy, individuation, self-esteem, will, productivity, or power. So as I'm reading all of these things, if something sticks out and you're like, ooh, I want to dive deeper into that, keep listening and let it reveal its way. Remember, the chakras are these little bodies of data collectors. We have the whole hard drive here, our whole system, but each chakra is its own section that creates data on each individual thing. And your third chakra holds the data on all the things I'm speaking about right now. It's represented by the color yellow. The location is the solar plexus. This is our power center. So the second chakra was down in our, for gendered females, your womb space, or that pelvic bowl, your space of creation. For the third chakra, it's up here right below your rib cage and above your belly button. So your diaphragm, your solar plexus, this is your power center. The identity is the ego identity. Like I said, it's the last part of the human chakras. And so it's that human will, that drive for life, that thrust forward. Its demon is shame. We're going to talk a lot more about shame in today's teaching, because this is what pulls our power away. Shame that comes from the belief that we are not pure good. And those beliefs are formed by our traumas, by our core beliefs, by our autonomy being taken away. We're going to talk more about that later. This develops between 18 months and 4 years old. And I really want you to hone in on what a lot of people call the terrible twos. In that place, when you are starting to say no, what the child does in that developmental stage is they realize that they have autonomy. They are now separate from their parent or guardian or systems. They now see and recognize that they have the ability to say no. It's so important, if you're still raising a child in this age, or if you're reparenting your own inner child, to give them the authority to say no, to choose, to have a choice in their body, their mind, and their spirit, even from a young age. It's not terrible twos. It's powerful autonomy. It's developing of sovereignty, and everybody has the right to say no. So let your child say no. Let them make that conscious choice. The developmental tasks are the realization of separateness, the establishment of autonomy, like we talked about. The basic right is to act and be an individual. Now, how a lot of times, and I'm getting ahead of myself, but how a lot of times this chakra wound, and I'm very passionate about the third chakra in general because it was my hardest one to heal within myself. The third chakra in general is deeply wounded by anything taking your authority or autonomy away. So helicopter parents, authoritarian parents, parents who just aren't around, and so you don't have a lot of choice of what to do. These make it so you don't have the will to drive yourself forward, and so you shut down that light. Shame is like a fan that's slowly closing in on this third chakra, or something that's really closing it off. It's like the lid on top of the candle that dissolves the flame. This shame and all of these core beliefs that aren't in alignment with you shut down that power center. So when your third chakra is perfectly balanced, when it's flowing beautifully, when it's moving beautifully, you are responsible, you're reliable, you're balanced, you have good self-esteem, warmth, personality, confidence, spontaneity, playfulness, a sense of humor, appropriate self-discipline, sense of one's personal power, and you're able to meet challenges face on. We'll talk about all of that in a minute. Some of the things that can create, like I said, this wounding are trauma, abuse, shaming, authoritarianism, volatile situations, domination of wealth, physical abuse, dangerous environment, fear of punishment, measurement, age inappropriate responsibilities, like the parentified child, and parents who haven't healed their own shame. So all of these things can cause either a deficiency or an excess in this chakra, causing an imbalance in your whole system. And remember, this is your power center. So if your power center is out of whack, you're either going to be exploding outwardly all the time and have too much energy to handle. We'll talk about that in a minute, or not enough, and you're going to have no fire or motivation or inspiration to move forward. So if this chakra is deficient, if it's small and scrunched down and dehydrated, you might have low energy. You might be easily manipulated, poor self-discipline. You have a hard time following through, low self-esteem, cold emotionally, poor digestion, collapsed middle, attraction to stimulants, victim mentality, blaming of others, passive and unreliable. If it's excessive or overflowing, you might be overly aggressive, dominating, controlling, a thirst to be right, a need to be right. You might be manipulative, power hungry, deceitful, attracted to sedatives so that you can bring down that fire, temper tantrums, violent outbursts, stubbornness, driving ambition, type A personality, competitive, arrogant, and hyperactive. Some of the physical malfunctions, so you know if these things are present, there's oftentimes a third chakra issue going on, are eating disorders, digestive disorders, ulcers, hypoglycemia, diabetes, muscle spasms, muscular disorders, chronic fatigue, hypertension, disorders of the stomach, pancreas, gallbladder, and liver. And I got all of this bulleted information for all of these workbooks that I created through the school I went to, through Barbara Brenham's energetic surgery program, through Eastern Medicine, Western Mind, what's her name? I forget the author, but I'll post it all below. And I created these workbooks with years of not only my own schooling and education, but my own research into the chakras. And I brought them all together to be cohesive. And that's where all these bulleted points come from. The affirmations here, I honor, and I want you to say these out loud and see how it feels and see how it resonates. I honor the power within me. I accomplish tasks easily and effortlessly. The fire within me burns through all blocks and fears. I can do whatever I will. So this third chakra, this power center, like I said, it's built on a strong, solid foundation. You're rooted into your own beliefs. You're full of yourself, your own sustenance, your own energy. And it's then that you have this beautiful, powerful fire that can transform anything. Now, this third chakra, in Barbara Brenham's school, we learned about all of the different wounding patterns associated with this. The third chakra's wounding pattern is called the masochist. And this was something I deeply related to for a long time. When we have been brought up in a childhood of shame, trauma, authoritarianism, abuse, we learn at a very young age to create pleasure from pain. And yes, we are alchemizing it. We are creating pleasure from pain. But in that way, we almost become codependent on pain. For me, covering myself in tattoos, piercings, BDSM, all of these different things, while they brought me great life, while they brought me great control and deep healing, as I was able to claim personal power in how I received that pain, what they also did was they didn't ever allow me to fully surrender, because I was going towards pain to create, to manipulate it, to create pleasure out of it. But the real power here in the third chakra is not to simply alchemize all the pain. While it is a valid skill and while we will use it and need it throughout our life, what's more important here is to have the deeply empowered sense of safety within, that you embrace pain. And I want to tell you the difference that it made for me when I made this realization a few years ago. It transformed my whole life. It softened my entire heart. I melted open because I no longer saw the world as a fear-filled place. I saw the world as a place of expansiveness, an opportunity to grow and learn, because I developed my own inner safety. So I wasn't walking into life expecting pain, knowing I can transform it into pleasure. I was walking into life knowing that if I got hurt, it just meant that I was alive. If I felt pain or sensation, while I could turn it into pleasure, what I started to crave doing is simply experiencing it as another part of life. I found great power in my ability to walk into all experiences and expanses, sensations, emotions, parts of life with great wonder, not a need to always alchemize it. but to embrace it as it was, to learn from it, to grow from it, to move through it. And there are situations where it's more fun, where it's more exciting, sure, to alchemize that pain into pleasure. That's part of the human experience. We can do that too. And we can also simply be with any of those hard sensations, knowing they are what is, and what is love. It's a really beautiful thing. And so the reason I say that is, even as I consciously parent my kid, and maybe if you guys are parents out there too, my kids, they're in their teenage years right now, and what they're doing is they develop a different piece of authority, of autonomy. They're developing divine will. So the third chakra is very much that human will, right? It's our ability to move forward. We act on this inspiration from the second chakra, from that flow, from that sustenance of life. We act on it and create from it. We develop a strong will. But what happens, and you'll learn this next week with the fourth chakra, is that fire burns up through that heart, that human will, that drive, that autonomy. It burns its flame up, and it opens the heart, and it melts us open to divine will, our ethereal will, where we can consciously choose to create in each and every moment, where we face fear with a conscious intentionality, where we face pleasure with a conscious intentionality, and when we're living in this place of deep surrender, of embracing all of life. And how that's developed is exactly what I'm doing with my teenagers now. And this is where a lot of parents become very controlling. In their teenage years, what I've done is I cultivated a home of safety, a place where they know they can come and talk to me about anything, where they can learn and grow from every experience. But I don't keep them there. I don't put the lid on the candle and dim their fire. I move them out of the house and I let them grow and expand, even as much as my egoic mom heart doesn't want to. They leave the house to play with their friends, to do all the things that teenagers do. They make mistakes. They take risks. They experience life, both pain and pleasure, and then they come home to safety again. And what they're learning every time they do that is to build their own internal safety, so that when they reach that stage of development, when they go out on their own, they can make conscious choices, knowing they can trust themselves, not trust to make the right decision necessarily, but trust that no matter what happens in their life, when they are inspired through their groundedness and their connection to source to act, that whatever the consequence of that action is, they can handle, because they've cultivated a sense of power and safety within. This is how we develop and move from this third chakra. This is how we forge the fires of life into transformation, into that ethereal body, so that as they come down, all of these high divinity, ethereal, conscious bodies come down into our human ones, as they descend into our knowing. As they rise up from the ground into the ethereal ones, they meet at our power center, and we can use that clear, conscious thought to create. When you're rooted into self, full of source or self, surrendered to it all, your inner fire erupts and it spreads like wildfire. You're making creations like nothing you've ever seen. You're not living in the bounds of conformity. You're not running away from yourself in the form of rebellion. You're living in your truth, grounded into what you know, full of yourself, forging a path on your own, and eventually opening to love and moving from divine will. As you exercise choice in every single part of your life, exercise conscious choice, not following a rule, not rebelling from it, but creating a conscious choice. You are exercising, no, you are initiating will. When you exercise conscious choice, you are initiating divine will. And it's through that you create and forge your own path, a great transformer. And a lot of people pull away from this, because what this does, what this will does, what this sovereignty does, what this autonomy does, it creates friction. When people see me showing up, saying all the weird ass shit I say, doing all the things I do, preaching about love and oneness in a world that is filled with suffering and separation, It creates friction within them. People who are resistant to my teachings, what I'm doing is I am activating a spark within them. And whether they choose to flame that spark, to fan it into a flame, or whether they choose to suppress it and run away and blame me, either way, it's planted a seed. A lot of people are being called to lead right now, and they're only backing down because they are scared of friction, of contrast. But it is that friction that creates the flame. And this is the thing about the third chakra. What we're developing here, just like that toddler that's learning to say no, is a sense of individuality. And we're going to learn more about this next week, but the individuality and the autonomy is so important, because when you step into the space of oneness, universal oneness and love, like I'm teaching about in all of my programs right now, if you don't have this autonomy, this individuality, you're going to get lost. This is where you see a lot of people have these really manufactured awakenings through different forms of medicine, who basically just lose their mind. They have psychotic breaks. They can no longer live in this world because they didn't take the time in the first, second, and third chakra to develop a sense of self and autonomy. So when all of this oneness channels through you, when you're connected to everything, and I'm going to post this later today because I wrote it last night, and as it came through me, I felt worlds collide. But when you feel that oneness, if you don't have a sense of individuality, it sweeps you off your feet, because you can literally feel the aliveness in every microcosm of the universe. When you really sink into universal oneness, if you don't have autonomy and individuation, you lose your path. And we are here to be human beings having this experience, to be embodied in our vessel, in our divinity. When you lose that and you float up here in the ethereal world, this is why you see a lot of spiritual people who have no money, who have no way of building a life for themselves, who have a hard time making decisions because they're living up here in the conscious realms, but they don't know how to bring it down here into the human experience, into the moment, to be able to alchemize it and move it forward. And that's what this journey is all about. You're organizing these vast feelings into action. You're taking all of the chaos of the universe and you are learning how to control it through your divine will. And it's so important in these first 3 energy centers to do the work, to clear any distortions, to clear any limiting beliefs, anything that's going to come through and make your foundation unstable and shaky. Because when you are anchored into a solid foundation based on truth, you can literally do anything. It's the most empowering. The reason I'm so passionate about it is because I know it can set you free. It has set me free. It doesn't mean that hard things don't happen in my life, but it means that I walk through the fire. It means that I walk through the fire with a sense of safety and knowing that it's all happening for me. And in the end and in the always, I can create magic from it. I'm embracing all of life deeply rooted into my power, not to power over anyone or anything, but to stand firmly in mind. And as all of us develop our own individual higher consciousness, we step into that vibration of oneness together. It's beautiful and it's powerful, and it's going to change the fucking world. So I ask you today to breathe into your own third chakra. I'll be posting a really powerful meditation with this tomorrow. Dive into your third chakra, making sure you've done the work on the first and the second. Ask the questions that come up around your power center, where you're scared of autonomy and authority, where you run away from yourself or conform to others, what you're rooted into, what you're full of. And find that balance in the middle, that balanced place of self-devotion in the form of discipline, in the form of action, in the form of conscious, daily, moment-by-moment choice. And next week, we deepen into love as we move up to the heart chakra. I hope that you got some nuggets here today. I get very passionate about the third chakra. Healing it was one of my greatest joys and one of the hardest things I've ever done. And it's the one thing that set me free and allowed me to fully embrace oneness and love. And it's all I desire to see for each and every one of you, because I know that that holds the answer to the end of suffering, separation, and division on this planet. I love you guys. As always, breathe deep and plan on miracles. And if you want to join my mystery school, deepening into oneness and love, called We Are One, comment below and I'll send you the info. Love you lots. Bye.